Chiefs take a hit to their running back depth as they got some unfortunate news about Jerick McKinnon, who's on IR. We take a look at coaching vacancies and much more coming up on Outside the Trenches.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome in to Outside the Trenches, presented by our friends at Five Farms Irish Cream Liqueur. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin, joined as always by Nick Leckey and Big B, Brien Hanley. Nick, how was your week, sir?
It's been great. I guess our kids are officially soft up here in Kansas City because they canceled school today for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
But whatever.
A little bit of snow on the ground. They're scared to compete.
They were. They really were.
That's how it goes. That's how evolution works, I guess. Big B, how you doing down there in Texas? I know, look, it's not as cold as it is up here down there, but I know it's going to get colder down there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, we are soft down here. I am not built for it. So my blood has thinned out. So when it starts to get cold here early next week or Sunday, I'm going to batten down the hatches. It's going to be brutal.
Look, I had done a little bit of looking into the weather for the Chiefs game. I think it's gotten worse since I looked. I made a TikTok video about it.
Jeez.
I think it's now the high is now -1, I believe, on Saturday for the Chiefs game. I'm going to double check, do a little bit more research here in our research department. Yes, Saturday, a high of 8. Sorry, Sunday's a high of -1, with Monday a high of 0. So it's going to get a little chilly, unseasonably cold. At least that's what the National Weather Service is saying for the Chiefs-Dolphins game. Will it be too cold for the Dolphins? We'll have to see. But a big part of probably the Chiefs-Dolphins, and I guess you're just going to have to listen to 5 things for more information about this Dolphins game, is going to be the running back department and getting the running game going for the Chiefs, for the Dolphins. Both of these teams really are going to need to get the running game going. But some news came down on Wednesday about a running back that, for the Kansas City Chiefs has had a lot of postseason success. That's Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon last year had more touchdown catches than Justin Jefferson. That's one of my favorite stats to pull out about last year because Jerick McKinnon was probably one of the biggest reasons the Chiefs got the 1 seed when they did and were able to make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. He's not going to be returning. He had surgery, I believe, on January 2nd is what Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest reported. He had an article out there. That's where I'm getting all this information on. Hat tip to Matt Derrick. Does great work out there covering the Chiefs. He underwent a procedure on January 2nd in Philadelphia performed by a noted core muscle specialist, Dr. William Myers. And in addition to the muscle tear, McKinnon also sustained a fracture in his pelvic bone. That sounds like it hurts. He was placed on the injured reserve on December 24 with a groin injury. And Andy Reid hasn't made a definitive statement publicly on his potential return, but that injury takes a while. That surgery takes a while to recover from. Matt Derrick made a note in his article that tight end Blake Bell underwent a similar surgery last year performed by the same doctor, and he missed the first 14 weeks of 2022.
That's God dang.
So it's not
weeks.
Yeah, it's not an easy injury to come back, easy surgery to come back from. Yes. Shout out Jet Mac. Shout out to our friends at Amateur Hour who call him Jerk McChicken. And look, there's a good Jerk McChicken, man. Every now and again you get a good Jerk McChicken game going on and he cooks a little bit. As against the Dolphins, he had that touchdown on that little burst route, I think is what Chase Daniel called it, where he just kind of went to open space because 3 people were covering Travis Kelce as they usually do, and he had a walk-in touchdown. But Big B, I want to start with you. How do you see the impact of Jerick McKinnon not coming back for the rest of the season, for the foreseeable future? How does that impact the Chiefs in the playoffs?
Well, I think it does, but because of just what you said, he's so good out of the backfield catching the ball. And as we all know, the Chiefs have had problems catching the football, but he's a pretty sure-handed guy, and it's just another weapon that that they may need going down the stretch here to be able to produce for them. So we'll see what they can do outside of that. This game though that's coming up, I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be because I think the Chiefs I think both teams are going to have to try to run the football in cold, windy conditions. So for this game, I don't know how much it'll be a factor. But a short passing game, that obviously can still be effective, but the Chiefs will definitely miss him.
Yeah, I do. I think he hasn't been a factor all season.
Right.
And so the Chiefs aren't going to really – I mean, you miss him, but last year was last year.
Yeah.
He did his part last year. And now I think it's going to be up to not only Pacheco, obviously, because, they'll key on him, but we'll see if, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mr. I have shit to do when the parade's going on, Super Bowl parade, it really wants to contribute this year, So, he runs like a 10-year vet who's, been in the league for a minute, but he has not made that effort, right? I would like to see him put that effort in, fresh legs, McGee, and get it, time to shine, buddy. So he's playing for another team. Like, is this his contract year? Is he up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no way the Chiefs are bringing him back either.
No, they didn't.
Flacco it.
Honestly, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option either. I don't believe before the season started, because they would have had to do that before the season started. But one thing about this injury that makes me wonder is, like, is this it for Jerick McKinnon? Like, he's 31 years old already. He's had a lot of lower body injuries. He tore his ACL twice. He missed 2 years coming back from it, because as he was rehabbing a torn ACL, he tore it again. So like he's had an uphill battle just to get back with the Chiefs. And he had that really good year in San Francisco, which then led him to Kansas City, winning the Super Bowl there. As I mentioned, a really key piece in last year's team, but this year just hadn't gotten it going. And I think a big part of it is that, like, Andy Reid, the coaching staff, the offense understood kind of his situation. They understood he's 31 years old. He might not bounce back as quick as he used to in terms of a lot of these other things. I think Nate Taylor on an Only Weird Games podcast we have, Nate's in the locker room every day talking to Jerick, and Jerick's it's like, hey, how come we're not seeing you very much? And he just like pointed at his legs. And like he was very aware of just like, yeah, I gotta save this. Like I've only got so much juice left. And it sucks to see. I don't want to see him go out this way, right? Just because of how much he's meant to really Kansas City, and in terms of getting that Super Bowl, as I mentioned, I don't want to totally overstate his importance to the team, but I feel like he was pretty important down the stretch last year. There were some times where they were in an overtime game with the Texans, who had Davis Mills as their quarterback, and he was a big reason why they won that game. But a part of me wonders if this is it for Jerick McKinnon. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes out after the playoff run and be like, he's like, hey, you know what? I just don't want to rehab from this. Like, that's the thing. Is like, I don't want to rehab to try to get back to football shape. It's going to be tough, especially with the depth piece of it is kind of my biggest thing, because I heard a stat like a couple years ago about running backs missing an average of 2 games a season. And then I went and updated it before this season started, and starting running backs missing an average of 3 games a season. So like, you're looking at starting running backs, that is a position of attrition. So you need 3 or 4 guys back there really that it's going to help alleviate that attrition from. McKinnon was a really good depth piece in terms of all that. He's really good in pass pro too, so they're going to miss that in terms of it. I worry mainly when it comes to just the depth of that room. Like, they'll have an opportunity to fix it, obviously this offseason, but for this playoff run, especially as both of you guys mentioned, like, they're going to need to rely on the running game probably pretty heavy in this first game. I don't know how much attrition that'll add to the running back room, Big B.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. But Nick's right. He wasn't a factor all year. Yeah. So I got to believe that the Chiefs are used to playing without him. Now, they may have been counting on him in the playoffs, getting him ready, ramping him up and all that stuff. But, I mean, I got to think that they have a game plan, knowing that he wasn't going to be there. He wasn't going to be that much of a factor. I just believe that they have that, because if they didn't, they're crazy. And I don't believe that the Chiefs the guys that are preparing the team. I don't think Andy Reid and company are crazy. So I just don't know how much of a factor. He'll be missed, obviously, and anybody that's hurt is always missed. Yeah. But he just wasn't that big of a factor this year.
I think that the biggest thing is that you look at week 18 when they had a chance to rest players, and look at who was inactive. And that'll tell you who they're going to be banking on for this playoffs, right? Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney, Travis Mahomes. I forget who's the one defensive guy. Was it L'Jarius?
Yeah, he didn't.
No,
play.
right? No. So
that's didn't play either. Yeah,
yeah. So that's who the Chiefs are banking on. So he hasn't been a factor all year. They've moved on. It's going to be Clyde and Pacheco. and then we're going to see Brien what they have to do, and it's going to take everything, man. It's going to take receivers getting it going, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. I'm more excited that or I'm disappointed that Draco Malfoy is out for the Dolphins. So that's the real big problem.
Are you talking about Luke Van Ginkel?
Yes, I am. 100%.
I was going to say
100%. Lucius Malfoy in the flesh, House Slytherin with the long flowing hair. So just pure magic, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I know we may get into this, but I'm like, does Miami have any defensive ends that are going to play?
They're going to have Justin Houston. They just signed Justin Houston this week, and they're going to have
I'm like,
off the street. It's just like they have him healthy, and I think they have Emmanuel Ogba, also a former Chief, and Melvin Ingram, also a former Chief.
Wow.
So they just have former Chiefs. I think they call them outside linebackers in their defense, but defensive ends out there, they're beat up. They're really beat up on the defensive line and kind of everywhere, really. They could get healthier in the back end with Xavier Howard and Javon Holland. Those guys could come back, but I mean, they haven't practiced yet. Like you're looking at Xavier Howard and Javon Holland haven't practiced yet. Teron Armstead was limited on Wednesday, didn't practice on Tuesday, and he's listed. We'll probably dive into this a lot more on the 5 Things podcast, so make sure you go and listen to that on Saturday when that comes out. But he's listed with a knee, ankle, and back injury on the injury report. Can you tell that's a wild card round injury report?
Yeah. So it's a week 30 report, right? First week of playoffs, the middle of January report is what that is. And if you can't get up for a playoff game, I expect everybody, unless you're out on Saturday, unless you can't practice or Friday for a walkthrough, you're good to go. You'll do whatever it takes come playoffs. Like, this is new season, everything behind you. Let's start fresh. Here we go. And guess what, Tucker? There's a reason why like this is like an offensive playbook.
Yeah.
And this is a defensive playbook. That's right. I'm holding a sheet of paper if you're listening to this online, and versus like a thick book, because defense, it's like, hey, set the edge, tackle the quarterback. I don't know. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. There's like 5 plays on defense.
It's reactionary, right? Like that side of the ball is very reactionary. You have to be pretty proactive on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be interesting too, because this game is on Saturday, right? So tomorrow's practice on Thursday. If you're listening, you'll probably listen to this on the audio podcast on Thursday. That'll be the last practice before they travel to Kansas City. That's their walkthrough practice. That's their Friday practice. So we'll have these injury designations probably fairly soon on Thursday to have an idea of how these guys are going to be practicing. And it looks like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert, Jalen Ramsey, Devon Achane, those guys have been limited the first 2 practices, so they'll probably play is kind of what the understanding will be, especially with it, Nick, as you mentioned, being a playoff game. But it's going to be, I think it's a good matchup. I think it's going to be a good matchup, a fun game, but man, they are just really beat up, Big B.
Yeah, they're definitely beat up. It's going to be interesting, looking at the record, Miami's record in temperatures less than 40 degrees, over time. I mean, it's not good, especially playoff games. It's even worse. But we'll see. I mean, both teams got to go out there and play in it. But it's at least the Chiefs can practice outside if they choose to kind of simulate it a little bit. Mm-hmm. What's Miami going to do? Well, you go in an indoor and you can get it up to maybe 50 degrees. You're not getting an indoor to 5 degrees. That's just not happening. I mean, there's not enough air conditioners in Miami to be able to do that. So
there's on South Beach, there's a hotel called the SLS, and they have an ice skating rink there. So maybe Miami can hold some walkthrough in the ice skating rink in the basement of the Standard, the SLS or something like that. So,
oh man, it's
cool place if you can go. Yeah,
it's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal, but I think it's advantage Chiefs. I think it's going to be a real good game. I do, but I think the Chiefs have a clear advantage in this one.
For sure. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I think that a lot of people think that the Chiefs are going to blow the Dolphins out. I just think it's going to be closer just with the way that the Chiefs have been playing recently. Wanya Moore's the only person who didn't practice on Wednesday, and he's got the concussion. He probably won't play, if I would assume it being a do not practice on Tuesday and Wednesday leading up to the walkthrough. I don't assume that he will be it, but the good news is there Donovan Smith has been a limited participant the last 2 days, so it's assumed that he is going to be the tackle there. And Andy Reid said, barring any setbacks, he'll be good to go in that regard there. Kadarius Toney, L'Jarius Sneed also listed on the injury report. Kadarius Toney limited the last 2 days. L'Jarius Sneed was a full participant on Wednesday with that calf injury. He's kind of been nursing that all year. I think he's been nursing it literally since training camp that he's had that injury, but we'll see how it goes. Fellas, let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll flip into some head coaching vacancies. On Wednesday, we had a couple bombshells come out in the NFL coaching world, and even one on Tuesday come out. Let's take a break, and then we will talk about those coming up next.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
We are fresh off of Black Monday. As we are recording this, the Wednesday night after the final game of the season on Sunday Night Football, which was Bills Dolphins, which kind of unceremoniously ended the NFL season, I think, with Tua's interception. It was a bad pass. I could tell the whole way that ball was getting intercepted. It's like, there's nothing there. But
he's throwing the Chase Claypool too.
Yeah, awful choice.
Oh, ex-Steeler.
Listen, I don't know what Mike Tomlin did down there to get these wide receivers that have these attitude problems to like somewhat work for him, but like he's got a secret sauce that he can get these defiant wide receivers to look competent until they leave that organization and then they show their true colors. It's honestly quite impressive.
That's crazy. I don't know what's going on. I mean, like I said, Mike Tomlin, when he does his thing. But these guys, you've seen it. It's Antonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool. I mean, they just, Martavius Bryant. Guys just absolutely, they kill it for the Steelers, and then they leave, and they are just garbage. Just absolutely terrible. So it is what it is. The Steelers, though.
I think that speaks to the culture that not only Pittsburgh has, where they've had 3 coaches, and you have, one of the best coaches in history, Mike Tomlin. Man's won 2 Super Bowls quietly. Man. Very, very quietly, right?
1 Super Bowl.
Just 1? Yeah, oh, that's right, because it was what's his face? It was the
got cheated by the Packers.
No, yeah, in Dallas in the snow. That's right. That was wild. That was so wild. I was thinking, never mind. It was Bill. Was it Bill Cowher? That's right. With Bettis. That's right. That's crazy.
That's a fun Super Bowl.
Just a great, but like I said, just a great culture that he brings, I think.
Yep.
And it's like they draft wide receivers and D linemen. It's what they do. It's just what they do. I'm like, how do people sleep on Cam Hayward? Like just the size alone. Just like, it's just crazy to me. Just absolutely crazy to me.
It is insane. Well, Big B, we'll have plenty of time. My blind no, I think you'll be able to talk about the Steelers a lot. So don't worry about that. We'll make sure that happens. They don't have a head coaching vacancy right now. But the teams that do have head coaching vacancies, the Panthers, that one happened in the middle of the season. Everyone knows that the Panthers have a vacancy. Same thing with the Raiders. Coming down on Monday, the Falcons literally wasted no time on Black Monday firing Arthur Smith as I believe it was midnight. It was midnight Eastern time when they fired Arthur Smith. Look, good offensive coordinator. Could he land somewhere to be an offensive coordinator? We'll have to see. He kind of revitalized Ryan Tannehill's career a little bit. Can he do it in Chicago with Justin Fields?
No.
That's a discussion to have.
Do that.
Wow.
Not the way he used those weapons in Atlanta.
Chicago?
Ugh.
Yeah.
They're not going to have Justin Fields, I don't think. But the Titans are the one that I think that we should talk a little bit about. That one was surprising to me. The Titans firing Mike Vrabel. I think that there was a little bit of a rub between the general manager and the on-field personnel. I think it honestly, it all goes back to the A.J. Brown trade when that happened. Big B, what were your thoughts, your reactions from when you heard the news of Mike Vrabel out in Tennessee?
Well, I thought it was nuts. I mean, first of all, Vrabel's issues with the A.J. Brown thing, it got the other GM fired because he traded him, and Vrabel's like, what the hell are you doing? So it got him fired. Then you bring in another guy, and this guy doesn't want to get along with Vrabel, said, you got to fire your offensive coaches. And he's like, hold on a second. We just got a brand new rookie quarterback. I go, our offense, our roster is horrible. How about you fix it? And then we can move forward with this thing. And but to fire Vrabel, again, Tennessee, they basically came out and said, yeah, we don't want to trade him because we don't want to miss out on somebody. So thinking that somebody's going to be better than Vrabel. So they'd already made the decision to move on from him. I'm like, the organization is just run. It's just a dumpster fire. There's several of them around the league, but Tennessee is definitely one of them. I have no idea what they're doing. Mike Vrabel is a great, not good, a great head coach. And those players love him. They play hard for him. They had nothing to play for except to keep Jacksonville out of the playoffs. They did it. That means they're playing. They love their head coach. Otherwise, those guys would have cashed it in 3 weeks ago. They didn't do that. I have no idea what they're doing. And they're going to get what they deserve because they're not going to get a great coach. They're still not going to be any good. It's what you do. It's what happens.
And to lose a veteran, too, with Tannehill. But I think overall, you look at the past couple of seasons, that it does feel like, if this offense is based off of the war horse and running it through him, and everything's predicated off that. So the offense lacked that fire. And when they traded Brown, right, it was like, that's a dumb move. Yeah. And I'd be pissed too. So I'm like, who was not watching film when they traded him? Like, why would you do that? If you're Tannehill in the offseason, like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? Do you hate me?
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. I felt like a hate crime.
Yeah.
Like, why? It's dumb. And trade him into Philly too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, why?
On draft day. Because they didn't want to pay him. But the problem is that they paid Tannehill, and then they didn't have enough room to go around. And I'm like, what are you doing? What's going on here? This guy is incredible. He's not good. He's incredible. Right. We can't use that guy. We can't use a weapon.
Too much of a weapon. Well, that's what he did. He took all the money. You never want to go full Dak Prescott. You want to go Tom Brady.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Nick. He took all the money, and he shouldn't have. A la Daniel Jones.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, my God. You swerved. You swerved 8 lanes of traffic to do that. I like that, dude. That was – Giants are not even relevant right now, and you swerved out of your way to do – I like that.
That's a little Johnson County exit there, Nick. He went all the way across to get out of that lane of traffic right there.
Didn't even look.
What I think is interesting, too, is it came out on Wednesday that the Titans have requested to interview Antonio Pierce. Isn't that the guy you just had?
Yeah.
Like, I'm confused by that. I don't understand. Like, I know Mike Vrabel's record dipped since 2021. He was coach of the year 2 years ago. But look, he didn't have a lot to work with. Like, his cabinets were pretty bare when you look at it in the talent part of it. His offense would have been a really good offense in the 1990s. But he just didn't have anything to work with. And the draft picks, they were not like, if you go look at the last 3 years of the draft picks they've had, have just been whiff after whiff after whiff.
For Tennessee?
Yes, by Tennessee. Like, Treylon Burks hasn't really panned out the way that they wanted him to. Nope. Caleb Farley hasn't really worked out all that much either. And those are the two of their bigger picks that they put some high capital into, haven't worked. So I don't know in that situation why you go with the guy who is the talent evaluator as the GM. Why would you take his side in this deal instead of Mike Vrabel's side? That's what I don't understand. Big B, and you mentioned poorly run organization. It's what it is at this point. It's what it is. They're up there with the Bears in terms of poorly run organizations when it comes down to it, because my goodness, goodness,
we are shooting shots fired.
That was an 8 lane of traffic one too.
But it's accurate though to put them in. You put them in that level too. It's like they're terrible. That's just a bad organization. Like, honestly, the Bears are a bad organization. Like, offensively, like, if you want to be an offensive player, don't go there. If you want to be a defensive player, go there. Because you're going to shine on defense. But guess what? Offense, you're not going to shine. You're not going to. You're going to go there, and that's where things go to die. Sorry, Cody Whitehair. I love you. You do a great job, buddy. But it's just the offense is not there. O-line does great. Just not. It's not. There's no. You don't fear them. You don't fear them. If you're a defense like this, it's gonna be great. We can score 6 points. We're good.
They're they're a dumpster fire. Kind of like Carolina. David Tepper, he could be the worst owner in the history of sports if Donald Sterling didn't exist. Because that guy is absolutely horrible. I mean, you fire a coach. Okay, fine. You fire Matt Rule. Steve Wilkes comes in. They almost get to the playoffs with him when he's picking up the pieces last year. Players love him. They're playing hard at the end of the year. Literally a game from the playoffs. Nope, we don't want that guy. So then we're going to bring in a guy who literally just got fired for being bad and Frank Reich. You start having meetings on Monday, just basically lambasting him, embarrassing him in front of his subordinates, and just calling him out. And then you fire him. I'm like, what are you doing? You just have no clue how football works, how to build a team. You just think fire it because I got all the money in the world. He just treats it like it's a toy. It's just horrible.
Well,
horrible.
Here's the thing about the Frank Reich thing too. I'll stand up for Frank Reich. He didn't have a choice in who his team was drafting, right? Like
absolutely not.
And so he was kind of in the short end, and he ended up just being the fall guy for it all. I think that everyone in that building wanted CJ Stroud, but David Tepper was like, no, we're taking Bryce Young. We're taking the guy from Alabama because Alabama produces historically good quarterbacks. If you look across the league, Alabama always has a good quarterback. I'm being sarcastic. I just want people to clear it. I'm being sarcastic about that. That's what I mean, I don't think that was very fair to Frank Reich at all. And I think that Frank Reich would be a really good offensive coordinator. I'll hire him as an offensive coordinator somewhere. Maybe the Bears want to hire him because they're not going to make a change at offensive coordinator.
Don't do it. I saw that. Like, what are they doing? You're going to stick with that? You're going to stick with that.
They're going to stick with Eberflus is what they said. They're going to fire their offensive coordinator, Luke Getzky. And then they're gonna roll the dice with Eberflus, and they're keeping their cards pretty close to their chest, probably as what anticipated and what they're gonna do if they want to trade Justin Fields or if they want to maybe trade back, get some more assets, maybe put some more around Justin Fields. If you can get maybe 3 top 15 wide receivers, right? Put them around Justin Fields. Will that help? Who knows?
No, it won't. That
probably not because it's a cursed organization, truthfully.
Jay Cutler is available.
Jay Cutler is available. Chase Daniel tweeted out that he wanted the quarterback coach job. They fired their whole offensive staff.
Yeah, they did.
So
terrible.
They're not in a good
He wants
spot.
a quarterback job where?
Chicago. He was in Chicago for a couple of years.
I know that.
3 years, 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I just
don't do it.
Bears bad, Carolina bad, Tennessee bad. There's a couple of them. The one that I think is actually going to get better that was horrible for a quarter century is Washington. Dan Snyder that is the definition of running an organization into they got new ownership.
Oh,
okay.
They
got
new
ownership.
They
made him sell the team. So he got
oh darn! You made me sell my team at a profit at the best time available.
At a profit, I think like $4 billion is what he made.
Yeah.
Something.
He was on that Scott Frost.
Yeah,
he was trying to get fired. He was trying to get. No! Don't make me sell. Don't make me sell. What do I have to do? Do I got to go hire? Oh my gosh, that was
yeah. So they may actually get better. I'm not sure who they're going to hire. I know we talked about. I'm sure you were going to bring it up, Tucker. So I apologize. Ron Rivera got fired there, which I feel like they kept Ron Rivera around all season long. Just I have no idea. I mean, we thought he was going to get fired before the first game. He's calling out Eric Bieniemy in training camp practices. I'm like, what are you talking about? He took his player's side over his offensive coordinator that he just got hired, which led us all believe that they made him hire him, that he didn't want to. And it's just like, what are you doing? How is that possible? But I don't know. Some of these places, I don't know who's going to go. If I'm Vrabel, I don't go there. If I'm Vrabel. I go to Atlanta.
Call. It was an easy call at the beginning of the year when that dumpster fire happened with Rivera and Bieniemy. It was like you could tell they already lost the season at that point in my mind.
Yep.
And
then they lost the locker room.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You can't do that. And then they traded Chase Young. Okay, we're good. Just to spite Dallas and Philly. By the way, that's the only reason. They said let's trade him to San Francisco. And guess what? Screw you, Dallas and Philly. That's how I roll. Like that's all that was, to be honest.
Of course it was.
And I love Petty. I love high level pettiness.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
for
if you're not petty, you're not trying.
It's true.
If you're not petty, you're
I'm
not
going
trying.
down swinging. I'm going
That's
down
true.
swinging.
Looking at some of the other vacancies we haven't hit on, the Chargers had a vacancy earlier in the season. There's been a lot of names thrown out about the Chargers job, a potential opening that could happen in the Patriots. I've seen Bill Belichick's name thrown out there. One name I've seen particularly coming up from the college ranks, Jim Harbaugh, national championship winning head coach.
No. Don't do it. You stay in college. You don't have the personality to be a pro coach. I'm serious. It's really not a thing. And guess what? You could live in Michigan forever. You could Gary Patterson it at Michigan forever. And it's like, do that. But like I'm telling you, he's not like, he is the opposite of Sean Payton. Yeah. Where he's going to try and be corny and have all this stuff. And guys are like, you know what? I don't really feel you. That's not my thing here.
Well, it's been over a decade, it's been a decade since he's been in the pros, him going back. I thought he was fine at San Francisco, but I don't know. I mean, they got the quarterback in place there, and so that's kind of his thing. If they can build around it, it would make sense. But my whole thing is you just won a national title at Michigan. I don't care what he does. He can stay there. They're not going to fire him no matter what. The only reason I see him leaving is that he's done dealing with the NCAA.
Yeah.
That would be the reason that I see that he gets out of there is he doesn't want to deal with them anymore.
Good question. Good question from Kathy Welch here. Do you think EB would fit in Tennessee or New England? I think it would be weird if, Tennessee's already requested to interview Antonio Pierce, but I think it's weird they're going to go from former player to former player, right? I feel like that they would go from, because usually you see this in the coaching searches where they go from maybe an offensive coach, maybe you had an offensive-minded head coach, they fire him, and then they bring in a defensive-minded coach. That's what happened with the Bears. I don't know why I keep going back to the Bears.
I know, right?
with Matt Nagy, and then they fired him. Then they brought in Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator who was with the Colts. That's kind of how the whole thing goes. You sometimes will just do the opposite of what you already had just for the sake of change. So I don't know, maybe Atlanta would be a good one. You mentioned the same thing, Big B, for Vrabel. I hadn't thought about Vrabel in Atlanta, but I think that could go over pretty well. I'll be interested to see if EB, I don't think he's been requested for interviews yet. I don't know if he's been requested for the Commanders job yet. And I know that their owners came out and said that they plan on it, but they want to get the GM in place first before that they do the head coach, which probably a smart decision, truthfully.
Don't say that to the Bears, though. The Bears do it the exact opposite. They'll hire the coach first and then bring the GM in after that and try to make it all work.
Look, we've done a really good establishing on this podcast that the Bears are a terrible organization. We've done a really good job of establishing that on this podcast. But no, so I think that I'll be interested to see which places request interviews for EB, because look, people put in interviews for him all the time. Now if he gets a job is a different story. I'll be interested to see where he goes. Do you have any thoughts on EB, Big B?
I mean, I'll be honest. I want to see him get a job, but I think his window is closed. I mean, how many interviews can you continuously go on and not get a job? There's obviously something out there about him that people just don't like. I don't want to hear personal background stuff that happened in college or whatever. If that was the case, he wouldn't be a coach. Right. People that bring up, he had these personal issues that happened in college. If it was really that big a deal, he wouldn't even be in your organization at all, period, point blank. So that's not the issue. There must be something about him that people, I don't know, for some reason, just don't want to bring him in. I think he may rub people the wrong way. I want him to get a job. I think he'd be good in Atlanta. I really do. Now, they need a quarterback, but I think he would be fine in Atlanta because they have a ton of weapons. It just Arthur Smith just didn't know how to use them, and they thought that Desmond Ridder was going to be the answer there. I think he'd be good there. He'd be good anywhere. He's a good football coach. So I hope his window isn't closed, but I'm afraid it is.
I think the fact that the Chiefs suck this year in the wide receiver room on offense, I think that plays well to Bieniemy's status with the Chiefs, because it was always his narrative was he's like the name your offensive or name your coach to come out of the Belichick Brady era from New England and fail elsewhere. Now you remove EB from this championship dynasty team and they suck.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they suck. I mean, I love how we said and they still won 11 games, or whatever, but they're not producing on offense
Correct.
as consistently as they do. They're producing enough, but not enough that they should be. And you have a guy like him, you're like, oh shit, maybe we need a guy like Bieniemy to kick ass and to hold players to task, right? Instead of coddling, instead of getting a guy from the Bears, with the worst offense,
Yeah. The old Bears back in it. The old Bears.
That was a U-turn back over back over the snake. Right?
Put it in reverse,
exactly.
go back over them, come back
do it,
up.
Yeah, do it, don't it? Yeah, exactly.
But think about this though. Would he be good with the Bears if they keep Justin Fields? I'm not sure that they will, but say they do, and they get another weapon or two in the draft. Would he be good with the Bears?
You got a great defense. You've got a great defense, and I think he'd be great. I think he could whip that offense into shape.
I do
and
too.
I think he'd be great.
Yeah,
I think that'd be the best.
He's going to hold people accountable.
Yeah, and that's what they need.
Be convinced.
You're right, Nick. You need that.
That's what Chicago needs, and not
somebody
the defense.
to come in.
Yeah, you can get you could do a role reversal. So EB is head coach or O coordinator, head coach, and get Ron Rivera to run the damn defense, right? I mean, that's his thing.
It's not horrible.
He wasn't there there though too. I feel like he was in a Bears.
He's a player there.
That's what he was. Okay.
Yeah, he played it in Chicago,
like under Ditka or something like that.
Yeah, literally.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Outside of 1 year,
I've heard some bad things. Yeah,
the Bears were a relevant organization outside of one season. I'll stand on that hill. Sorry, I'm going in on the Bears tonight. I don't know what the deal is. We did a tweet when the Chiefs played the Bears. I'll have to look it up. About Mahomes' career stats are better than the Bears' career, like in terms of like Super Bowl appearances. He has more 5,000-yard passing seasons because the Bears don't have a single 5,000-yard passer in their career and their history. It's quite astonishing. But I was just looking over at our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. They've got a couple of head coaching specials over there. Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh. They're the two specials. I think it's funny because you look at, this is for which team will this head coach be in at the week 1 of the season? For which team will he be the head coach in week 1 is what these questions are. Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh, the team that's favored. The same team is favored for both of them. And it's the Los Angeles Chargers. At DraftKings Sportsbook, they are thinking that both of these guys will be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, that cannot happen. But there is one coaching spot that we haven't mentioned yet, but we'll get to it after we hear a word from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs. And they're bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Looking at that Chiefs and Dolphins game, over/under set at 44 points. Chiefs favored by 4 points in that matchup. So go check that out and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right, what I alluded to before we started talking about our wonderful friends DraftKings. The Seattle Seahawks, kind of a bombshell came down on Wednesday morning. Pete Carroll stepping aside. It was an amicable parting of ways of Pete Carroll no longer being the head coach. I believe he's going to an analyst role is what they called it.
Advisor
role. Yes. So he's going to an advisor role. BJ Kissel and I were talking about it. It sounded a little bit similar to a Bruce Arians, if you remember what happened a couple of years ago when he stepped aside for Todd Bowles to take that job. Only problem here, Big B, there's no heir apparent.
Oh, yeah. I was surprised as anybody. Yeah. And then you start looking at his age. I mean, Pete Carroll doesn't look it, but he's 72 years old.
Yeah.
And while he's still out there, he's still running around, jumping around, and all that stuff. 72 is still 72, and he's been coaching for a long time. And maybe he just got to the point where he's like, you know what? I'm done. I can't keep doing this. It is what it is. But they don't have somebody to step in. Their roster isn't horrible. They still have an opportunity to get better. I think their quarterback away because I don't trust Geno.
No.
But that might not be a horrible place for Vrabel to go. That's another place that's. I mean, I think that's a good job. The Seahawks job is a good job.
Yeah.
They're a well-run organization too, which all these jobs that we've mentioned, even the Chargers not run well either.
No.
So there's a lot of places that haven't been run well, but Seahawks are actually one that is run well. So if you're an aspiring head coach, look, I know a lot of guys, it's only 32 jobs. Somebody's going to take that Carolina job, which is, but yeah, I think the Seahawks job is a good one.
Yeah. And I think when Paul Allen was there, RIP, he was a fantastic, I heard great things. So I was in NFC West for 5 years of my career, and Seahawks won outside of the Niners. I mean, the Rams and the Cardinals, right? So you have 4 games that you're winning, that are fairly, whatever. And then you go play the Niners twice, once at home, once in San Francisco. It's a good gig in the NFC West, and Seattle's a fun place. Their facilities are beautiful. They're really beautiful. And for Vrabel to go in there, you have the 12th man, which is the crowd noise. And so if you can get any sort of any sort of offensive going, you can do some good things up in Seattle. It'd be a cool plug and play, but you got to find that veteran quarterback to fill the space until you draft somebody to come through.
Yeah. So I do agree with you guys. I think the Seahawks is the most enticing job when I start to look down at this list. And we talked about the Panthers, the Titans, the Chargers. Falcons aren't really a very well-run organizations. The Raiders have had their history with, their owner and everything like that. It's like Commanders and Seahawks are probably like the 2 best jobs right now when you're starting to look at it from, that 3,000-foot view. And I do think that's a good job. I see Dan Quinn's name has been thrown out there a lot. I think a lot of people kind of anticipate him to take that job, which is kind of surprising because as soon as it happened, I think you saw all the big dogs like Ian Rappaport, all the Adam Schefter was like, yeah, expect the name to be Dan Quinn. I don't know if that's Dan Quinn's agent working really hard, which it could be. But I do think that that's an interesting name to watch for that one as well, because that's, again, another philosophy shift there. From going from an offensive guy to a defensive guy. I'm interested to see how this whole coaching carousel shakes out. I don't think we're done either. I think that the Patriots are going to need to make a decision on what they're going to do with Bill Belichick. There might be a playoff team that ends up with a first round exit that has a coach gone too. So I'm going to be interested to see how this carousel works. There's been a lot of big bombshell moves across football. Same day that Pete Carroll stepping aside, Nick Saban steps down and retires at Alabama. That was kind of a bombshell. I don't know if I necessarily expected that to happen. Bud Elliott for CBS Sports 24/7, and he's on the Cover 3 podcast as well, was kind of sniffing around at it. He thought this season felt weird for Saban about him being so chipper about everything pretty much. I was like, why is he acting like this? Turns out it was the last year for him. He's going to go down as the GOAT. Coach, wouldn't anticipate to see him on the sidelines of any other, especially not pro. I don't think he goes pro. And I don't think Harbaugh goes pro either. I think he's got too good of a setup at Michigan there. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. Nick, I think you made a really good point about Harbaugh. If you like listen to what he was like saying after the national championship, that's stuff that you can sell 18-year-olds.
Yeah,
and I think the thing that happened with Matt Rule too in Carolina is he was trying to sell the same stuff he was trying to do at Temple and Baylor. He was trying to do that in Carolina, and that doesn't work. You know that, Nick. I mean, like that doesn't work. Like you're not going to go for a guy who has like sayings posted everywhere on the locker room and everything like that. Like, what is this guy doing?
No, absolutely not. No, there's a night and day difference between college and the pros. And like I said, there's some coaches who are great coaches for college and great for NFL. And I think with Saban, he's been doing it long enough where he's been coaching for a minute that he was sick of the fact that he's not in complete control anymore.
Yeah.
So these coaches, you don't have control, and it's like, man, you're losing. You're turning over your whole, offensive and defensive 22 players every year. So it's like a roster rebuild every year. You can't develop, you can't do your thing, which is what they do. Alabama wasn't a place to go. We're going to promise you playing time. No, we'll develop you and you'll play and you'll get the NFL. Now it's like guys want to play now, and I think Saban got sick of it. And I love Saban because he was like, I'm just going to go out, and he didn't have this victory lap retirement that people do. He just quietly said, peace out. He said, I'm the GOAT. Peace out. Bear Bryant, who? Nick Saban now.
Yeah, I love that fact, Nick. I think, didn't take the victory lap. Not only this too, he didn't go out. You know how some coaches or players, they wait too long and they go out. Yes. Yeah, they win 7 games, 8 games or something like that, and they struggle at the end. And They didn't do that. I mean, they were literally a play away from getting to the national championship. So that part is what I really love about it, is that he not on top, but they were at the top of their game. Even though this wasn't the typical great Alabama team, I think this is one of his best coaching jobs because quarterback wasn't great. Defensive line and offensive line wasn't great, but they won the SEC, beat a team that nobody thought could get beat. They beat Georgia and were literally a play away from the national championship. So, are playing in the national championship game, and they'd have beat Washington. I mean, Michigan destroyed Washington. I think Alabama would have done the same thing. Yeah. So good for Nick Saban, though.
Listen, if I was playing center for Alabama, I think that we probably would have got it done.
Could have snapped a little higher, huh?
I think I could have snapped it just a little bit higher. I think I could have got it done for old Nick Saban. I still got eligibility. Haven't spent it yet. So, I think the coaching carousel is going to be really interesting. I had to bring up Saban on this because it's just hard not to talk about. I know we mainly stick to the NFL, but it's hard not to talk about just any sort of football without discussing like his impact and just what he's had on the game. You look at like how many first round picks he's had. They've had a first round pick for the 15 straight years. Like that dude has done so much for the sport of football in terms of the NFL. Like, he didn't have great success at the NFL level, but he found what he was good at. And Nick, I think you made a really good point about the lack of control. Like another part of this too is like producer Nick made this a point in the chat, and I think he's incredibly right. Being an NFL coach is easier than college right now. Like in college, you're having to worry about transfer portal, recruiting your own guys, recruiting high school kids, game planning for the next team, maybe some future game planning as well. If you're going to see you got a big game coming up, if you're Hugh Freeze, you just forget about the game plan. But like there's a lot of things that go into being a college coach right now, and maybe it's an arms race thing too. Teams are starting to catch up to Alabama, and this is where Nick Saban's like, all right, see you guys. Maybe that's part of it. I've seen some people say that. I don't know if that's necessarily a big part of it, but I think it's definitely an end of an era in football when you have both Pete Carroll and Nick Saban stepping away from being the head ball coach for a team. It's big. It's big in the sport of football as a whole.
It is. And let's not forget Pete Carroll also left USC in a lurch too. Yeah. When they were about to get suspended. That was I love Pete Carroll, brings a lot of energy, but that USC part really always it goes unstated. And it's like he left a burning ship. He really did. So it was like, ugh. I was like, that always left a bad taste in my mouth. I know he's a great whatever. He does good coach and has good energy, but that part always bugged me. They did with Pete Carroll.
Well, and they haven't come back either, Nick. They literally have not come back from what he left them in. They're not back to that level. I'm not saying national championship level. You have to get there, but USC's not. You don't think about them as being a top 10, 15 program every year. They're not there. Not even close to that, to be honest.
No, they're not. They're not consistently there. So, he set them back for sure. But it's the college game. I could see why coaches are leaving college game. Because I think, Tucker, you mentioned it all. It's like I've even had some conversations with coaches, various college coaches, and I'm like, hey, have you seen about this guy in high school? Like, well, we're going to wait for the transfer portal to see who we can get. Then we're going to go after high school guys. Yep. And it's like, golly, man, it's a lot of work. And it's like one season. There's like half a season. And you got guys bugging out. And I think you can't give too much control to a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old kids. I think you can't because we make dumb decisions when we're that young.
Sure we do.
And you put money in our pocket? Come on. No, even worse.
at some point they're going to get the rule change back. They have to be able to, okay, you can transfer once, but you don't get a second one unless you have to sit out a year. You know, if they just did that, a lot of this goes away.
Right.
A lot of this goes away. And go back to the rule, Nick, and I think you can probably appreciate this. 5 to play 4. I'm sorry if you got hurt. I apologize. But you know what? You don't get to play till you're 24 years old in college.
Yeah.
That just, I don't want to hear it, man. Look, I'm sorry that you got hurt, but sometimes your body will tell you, hey, man, you shouldn't be playing football. I'm going to keep getting hurt until you stop playing football.
Yeah,
so, you know, just 6-year seniors, 7th-year seniors. What are we doing?
That's wild.
They just got to make the rule. If they just go back to that, a lot of this goes away because you can't have guys jumping in the transfer portal every year, and then you won't have to worry about high school guys. They're not going to take the big hit that they were before. JUCOs come back into play. I mean, JUCO, heck, I was a JUCO guy. JUCO guys were all over the place. You don't really hear that much about JUCO guys these days.
That's right. You really don't, do you?
Yeah, you don't.
Really don't.
Who would I rather take a chance with? A JUCO guy, which whether it's true or not, the stigma is something was wrong with them. Okay, so that's the stigma. That's why they went to junior college. Either they couldn't play, or they were terrible. They were a terrible human being, got in trouble, or they had horrible grades. That's the stigma. Well, would I rather take my chances on a JUCO guy and hoping that it works out behavioral wise, or just take a transfer guy who he was fine? Well, everybody's going to take a transfer guy over that guy. So
you've seen what they can do in D1. It makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. So
and then you upgrade. You can upgrade.
Yes. It's just they got to change it. A theory of mine, it's actually a theory of a friend of mine's, and I think he's right, is, and I don't mean to dominate everybody's time, is NCAA, I think, has done this on purpose. They said, you know what? They've thrown their hands up. You guys thought that we were leading with an iron fist? Fine. No rules. You guys figure it out. Well, they can't figure it out, and the NCAA is going to swoop in and save the day, and they're going to be looked upon as the hero.
Yeah, I can see that.
I believe that is what is going to happen. You can thank my man Darren Howard for bringing that up to my attention. He's been saying it for years. I said, dude, you're nuts. But he's right. He's right. Because the NCAA is the only person who can fix this. And they've gotten to the point to now people are disgusted with college football. Yeah. Well, the NCAA's got to fix it. And they will. They'll fix it. But they're also going to say, if we fix it, you know that big piece of the pie that you guys keep sharing? Yeah, we're going to take 33% of that. That's going to come to us.
Yeah.
I mean, you want us to fix it? Great, we'll fix it. But we need that. We need that check. Yeah. So.
There's a question here. We're going to call an audible here because I like this question from Primetime Gala. What do y'all think about Jameis Winston going rogue? Listen, if you know anything about me, know anything about this podcast, know anything about anything that I do on social media, I love Jameis Winston. And that's probably because he was the quarterback of a really good college football team when I was a very impressionable age. Great role model, probably not, but I think that he is just so entertaining. And I think that his, there's a je ne sais quoi about him that you just can't put your finger on it. Of that, what just makes him so lovable. And you ask Jimbo Fisher, you ask any teammate that he had, and they will say that is the best teammate that I have ever had and I've ever played with. He cares about everybody. He spent as much time as what the walk-ons as he did the superstars. So I think I really do appreciate that about him. He was trying to help his guy out, get an extra bonus, I think is how the whole story goes. But it is a little it's a little off-putting when you're already up 41-17 to do a fake kneel. That's a little tough. Yeah. I was firmly in the keep crying about it, Arthur Smith. Like, if you don't want him to score, don't let him score type of deal. But Jameis Winston kind of going rogue there. It's funny. It really is. But like, you think that he would know better, but I guess not. I guess we should know by now that Jameis Winston doesn't know better.
No, I think it was a terrible move because you have to victory formation. Yeah. It's like, hey, we're done. Like, you go up to the line, you're going up to the line, hey guys, we're kneeling, and everybody chills.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that Greg Schiano shit and you dive at my legs,
daggone right.
you're gonna catch some punches in the back of your neck, right? You
Yep.
know, you might get stepped on. Like, so there's he violated a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah.
And when you line up in victory, you don't do squat. It's the greatest play in football because you don't do a darn thing.
Yep.
And he violated that, and that's terrible. And I love Jameis Winston. I think he's good, but that was Bush League, 100%.
Yeah,
It was.
I couldn't agree more. I don't know if I agree with Shannon Sharp about him being cut. I don't know if you necessarily want to go that far about him being cut, but it's 100% Bush League. Because here's the thing. I'm a defensive lineman. I'm not doing anything. You're in victory formation, and these offensive linemen come firing out. Guys can get hurt.
Yeah.
You're telling me that's more – his touchdown is more important than blowing out my knee on a play that nobody thought was even going to happen? Come on, man. Right. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Jameis had a quote after the game. He said, "How much worse can it get?" is what he said. And that guy is really good at giving press conferences. By really good, I mean really good for memes and clips.
Oh yeah,
is how I mean it. I don't mean it in a literal sense. But I have already saved that video of him saying, "How much worse can it really get?" In my phone, and I've already planned on using it. You know, when the Chiefs inevitably go down 10-0 against the Dolphins, right? Boom. First thing out of my phone. How much worse can it get from Jameis Winston? But yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I do think that there's a little bit of it. I saw somebody on TikTok, I think, make a point about like Jameis Winston. He's right. He should be cut because he stinks, not because of this thing. But
that's what I said.
Yo, you said that.
Yeah, that's what I said. Don't cut him because of that. Cut him because he's not any good. I go, and then the reason why Derek Carr, who I think we can all agree is not very good. The man couldn't even sit up. I mean, they literally had to sew his body together just to get and wheel him out in a wheelchair just to go play a football game. They thought more of him to put him out there than to put Jameis Winston out there. That's how much they think of Jameis Winston. They would rather wheel a guy out than put you in the game.
Big B, they did the weekend at Bernie's over Jameis Winston.
Yes, they really did, though. That's a good TikTok, Big B. I remember it now. Yes, it was you.
It was me. Yes. Brutal.
Yes, they did. Tucker has no clue. Tucker, what's Weekend at Bernie's?
I've seen the movie, The Weekend at Bernie's.
What's it about then?
The dude's dead, and they take him to a party, and they just
it's his beach house. It's her boss's beach house, and he dies, and they whatever.
It's underrated movie. It is hilarious. All of it.
There was a Weekend at Bernie's too, apparently.
There was.
Wait,
the second one wasn't as good. But the first one was hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny. That was so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Jameis is a GLG, good locker room guy.
He is, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I prefaced what I was about to say. But I think from everyone else, Jimmy Graham tweeted about it. Like literally everyone that has had to say anything about Jameis Winston, who has played with Jameis Winston, has had nothing but positive things to say about him as a person. Like he loves the city of New Orleans too. Like I saw clips of him going around at like Pelicans games, like the mayor. Yeah. He was like the mayor, shaking hands and talking to people and
picture selfies.
Yeah, great guy. I just
good vibes.
Great vibes. Just maybe don't do that. Maybe just don't do that next time, Jameis. Maybe just sit that one out. All right, we've gone 58 minutes in this podcast, and we haven't done blind nil yet. So let's start with mine because I think mine can be quick. Big B, I did say you'd have an opportunity to talk about your Steelers here. And I have who's your dark horse team to win the Super Bowl?
Cleveland.
Well, I know
Rams
is a good one. Rams is a sneaky one.
Mm-hmm. Playing real good football. That defense is playing great. Aaron Donald must have rested his legs, and he is back doing Aaron Donald things. And I'm telling you, Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator, another guy that doesn't get talked about being a head coach. At some point, he's got to get another shot.
He had a shot.
Did he really have a shot? I mean, they weren't trying to win in Tampa. Plus, he was too young. Heck, he was going out with the players down in Tampa.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
He was commingling. You can't commingle.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can't. You cannot do that. Absolutely not. No. To me, I like Cleveland because just everything we talked about. I think Flacco's that late game player, and I think you got a great defense assembled. And it's just, you got a great offensive line. You got, weapons galore, and you got a guy who can actually utilize it. I think it's great. And I love his interviews, his demeanors. I mean, it's so awesome. And I think Houston backdoored in the playoffs. So, Cleveland go down to Houston and the carpet of NRG Stadium, the living room, and do their thing. And man, they could have a good run.
Yeah, I don't dislike Cleveland. I like that, Nick. I think they're playing really good football. Depending on who wins, I think they're Baltimore's biggest challenge. I really do. I think they are Baltimore's biggest challenge. So I don't think Baltimore wants to play them till the AFC Championship game, and they hope that they get upset by somebody because, yeah, that would be – I think Cleveland knows Baltimore too well and can stop what Baltimore's trying to do. That's my thing. I think they can stop what they're trying to do, and can the Ravens stop Cleveland? I mean, their defense is good, but Flacco magic, man. Flacco magic.
It's real. The Dark Devil magic that they got over there. That Flacco's got on his side. What I think people are talking about, the Rams and Lions game, people are talking about that game, right? From the side of Stafford.
Yeah.
Stafford
going back.
But I think what people aren't talking about enough is Goff against the Rams, because you had Sean McVay out here publicly saying, like, this dude stinks. You can't win anything with this dude. So I think that almost is a little bit more of a revenge factor than, because I don't think there's really any love lost. I mean, I think that they still love each other is what I'm trying to say, between Matt Stafford and Detroit.
Yes,
Detroit,
100%.
They still love each other. Jared Goff don't love the Rams. The Rams don't love
no, he don't.
So
it's extra hatred this week. Or if they were to play. Or when they do play.
When they play. That's the side of the things I don't think is getting talked about enough, is the Jared Goff side of the revenge game.
Yeah.
I like the Rams pick. I didn't even think about the Rams, but I do like that pick. I'm not going to give a pick because you guys took mine. I agree with Nick. It's the Browns. And the Browns right now are just gotta get hot at the right time, and they did. And
sure did.
Who's going to stop them? It ain't going to be Pittsburgh. That's for damn sure.
Well, Jeffrey Potts in the comments section thinks that it's going to be the Texans.
Texans are going to beat Baltimore?
That's what Jeffrey Potts says.
Bet money.
That's never going to happen.
Bet money. That's
never going to happen.
CJ Stroud sending Flacco home empty-handed. Shout out Jeffrey Potts. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Who's going to block? Who's going to block for CJ Stroud? This defense is wild. It's just too crazy. I'm thinking a minimal two picks for CJ. Minimal.
Let me see if I can get you a line on that.
DraftKings. What's the DraftKings?
I was going to say rookie first playoff game. It makes it tough. Miles Garrett.
It's Wednesday, so I don't think that they'll have passing props out. I'll look real quick, but they usually.
Well, the one thing is, now Jeremy Tunsil does play left tackle for the Texans, and he's a top 3 or 4 tackle in the league. So we'll see.
Oh, you might be in luck. You might be in luck, Nick. Oh, you don't have alt lines yet, but the over under they don't have interceptions out either. Oh yeah, they do. Over a half interception is -115 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook for CJ Stroud. They don't have the alt line out. I assume Fridays when the alt line will come out, where you can just say, I want 1 or 2+ interceptions. And then if you say that, then you should be able to get some pretty good odds on it, is what I would assume here. I'm going to go to
sucker bet right now, because they're basically telling you he's going to get a pick.
Yes.
And if he gets one, you're not going to win any money.
Yeah, you're not going to win. You're not going to win dilly squat.
He'll get 2, so you ain't got to worry about it. He'll give up 2.
You know who's also going to throw 2 interceptions?
Please say Josh Allen.
There you go.
He 100%
also
at least
throw 2
one.
Interceptions. Steelers are going to run for 192 yards, not 190, not 200, 192 yards. And look at that. Look at Jeffrey. Look at that beautiful.
He came back and totally redeemed himself.
That knows football. I don't know why we had him on the screen even more. Bill should be on upset alert. 192 yards rushing by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph throws for 2 touchdowns. Steelers 24, Bills 20.
Ooh, hey, listen, Mason Rudolph ain't doing none of that. He ain't.
I'm just
I forgot
telling
Mason Rudolph was driving that ship. Oh,
QB1.
yeah.
Just telling
Pittsburgh's going to
you.
get blown out, Big B. I'm sorry, buddy.
If we can't run the football, we're going to get blown out. I'm telling you right now. If we don't run for 192 yards, we're going to get blown out.
That's going to be 190 yards on 50 carries.
Hey, we'll control the clock. Then we'll control the clock.
Got to keep Josh Allen on the sideline. Win the time of possession battle.
It's going to be handoff right, handoff left. Yeah, exactly.
A yard and a half at a time. Sometimes that's what it takes, man.
Looks like on DraftKings Sportsbook, Bills are 10-point favorites. Nick, go ahead.
What's your saddest sports moment? And I'm not going to say it personally because I know Big B is to be the Big 12 championship game in '98. But
that's easy for
no. I'm talking like as a fan, like as a fan, what is like you're like the one you're like, God dang it, like that sucks. And to me, it's funny. I couldn't. It was tough for me to think of one, honestly. Like I was like, man. Because really, I don't get too intertwined in sports. Because to me, I thought Michael Phelps was going to blow the 8 medal thing. That was kind of cool, but he got it.
Yeah.
I think
so. Saddest sports moment.
I think for me, it was Mizzou Norfolk State in basketball when they were the 2 seed and then they lost to Norfolk State in the opening round of the tournament. Lost to 15. I don't really even care about basketball that much, but that one hurt.
That's awesome. Okay, I got it. I buried it. It's funny how I think we bury these so deep down inside we don't think about them. But once you think about it, And I could tell you, I was at my house in 2012 here in KC, and watching Baylor just absolutely murder K-State in 2012 when they were undefeated with Colin Klein. That hurt.
Yeah, I was gonna.
That hurt a lot. Like that.
I was going to throw that out there because I went to the game and I thought,
you were in Waco for that?
Yeah, we went to Waco. Boy. You know, that old crusty stadium that they had.
I remember that one. Yeah, you
just like, we're going down there. This is an easy win. Baylor wasn't even any good at the time, and I'm thinking, we get this one, we're going to the national championship game, and we got smoked. That was brutal.
I saw Phil Bennett on the sideline of the game when it first started. I go, oh shit, we're gonna lose.
Yeah, he had our number. He had our number.
Damn it.
Yeah, that was brutal. I don't know. I think the 2011 Super Bowl was tough for me because the Steelers were better than the Packers. They were better than the Packers, and they literally could not stop Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson torched the Steelers. Jiminy Christmas. He dropped 2 touchdown passes, or the game would have been even worse. And that's what made it so bad. I'm like, we're better than them, and we can't do anything to stop them. So it was brutal. Plus, Rashard Mendenhall in all his glory, fumbling footballs, but and then the nonsense of what he said here recently. But yeah, that was pretty tough for me. It was right before we moved down here. I was going to go to the game, but they had the ice storm here in Dallas, so I was I'm not going.
And snow in Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, the whole city shuts down.
No.
They haven't had a Super Bowl since then, have they?
Yeah, it's almost like they're holding it against them.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I guess this is the time of year when we get the ice storm. So it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to have a Super Bowl here because it's like, this is when the ice comes. So do you want to do that or not?
It was Thanksgiving. It was like there was always freaky like snowstorms Thanksgiving in Dallas. And then also that late January window. It's like it's weird. And then it's like beautiful. Like, I mean, it's beautiful. It's like nice other than that around Super Bowl time. But that's why they moved it back an extra week, Big B. That's why they put in week 18 so Dallas could host the Super Bowl. Again.
Oh, well, we need to.
They're going to add the second bye week and then bada bing, bada boom. Then you'll have President's Day right after it. And so you do get the day off. Genius. All right, Big B, why don't you take us home?
Mine is easy and fun.
Good.
What is your favorite snow activity? Now, I don't mean, hey, we're going on vacation somewhere. I'm talking about as a kid, we had a snow day. What was your favorite activity? Was it like playing football, going sledding, big snowball fight? Ours was we went to the golf course. We walked forever to go to this big golf course. and played football, and there'd be 40 kids. It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome.
And that's pre-social media. That was like phone call, like
Oh yeah, it was all phone
landline
calls.
to landline, or like you're like knocking on someone's door.
Because
Like,
almost
hey,
everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody'd walk outside at the same time, and then everybody would be like, "We're going to play football." Yeah, it was awesome.
There's a
awesome.
sense. I didn't. Man, it didn't snow a lot in Dallas. So I didn't really like snow day. To me, I just like the feel of snow day. Like when I was a kid, I like to feel that it would stop, like the world would stop. Like, because listen, you're not finding out at Twitter at 9 p.m. the night before. You're waking up at 5:30 in the morning and you're watching the television on the one weird channel that had like the 3 colors on it, and you're looking for your like, okay, where's Grapevine Colorado Independent School District, right? Are they going to close? Like, and you literally had to watch the TV for like half an hour for it to scroll, to go through like the alphabet if you missed it. And it was like, yes, we're closed. But like I said, you didn't find out till 6:30. So it was like, okay.
You'd look away for a little bit, and then the G section would be gone. And be like, no, wait again.
Damn it.
Well, that was true. Is because you would think that'd be a day everybody slept in, and nobody did.
No,
Everybody's up waiting. That's right. You can't sleep in because, lo and behold, they cleared the road out in Timbuktu somewhere, and we had to go to school. Like, what is going on here?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. Just the feel. I like the feel of a snow day. It feels like a bonus Saturday.
It does.
I just like the feel of a snow day when I was a kid. I like the ritual. Maybe play video games all day.
Yeah. I wouldn't go outside very much if I did. I always lived out in the country when I was growing up, so there was really nobody else around us. So if I was gonna go out there, it would be just to mess around in the snow, I guess, just run around. Sometimes, a lot of the times, especially I can remember growing up, like a lot of the snows weren't good enough to like make snowmen. They're like light, dusty snows, not like wet, heavy snows. So I've made a few snowmen back in the day. This snow that just came to Kansas City, really good snowball snow, really good snowman snow. It's the good stuff. It's the thick, it's the heavy stuff. But Nick, I'm right there with you. I just love the feeling of like being inside and knowing the weather outside is just really bad, and just like being safe inside and like cozy, and just that feeling of just the coziness feeling is just the best. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's a great feeling. It's an absolute great feeling. I like that, Big. That's a good one to end on.
That's a good one. Great one to end on. Well, fellas, we'll be back next week. Wild card weekend, super wild card weekend recap. We'll get to talk about all these games going on, who's moving on, and by the time we meet, we will know who's playing who as well. So go Steelers, go Chiefs. We will be back next week with another episode. For Nick Leckey and Big B, Brien Hanley, I'm Tucker Franklin. We'll talk to y'all next week.